Hi, everyone, and welcome to Phoenix Global Mining's webinar. This is Jack Bourdais from RB Milestone Group. Phoenix Global Mining is publicly listed on the AIM exchange in London under symbol PGM and on the OTCQX in the US under symbol PGMLF. Joining us today is the company's CEO, Dennis Thomas, and the company's director and CFO, Richard Wilkins, will be providing an in-depth overview of Phoenix, its recent announcements, and its upcoming milestones. Please note, today's call may contain forward-looking statements that are subject to risks and uncertainties that may cause actual results, performance, or developments to differ materially from those contained in the statements and are not guarantees of future performance of the company. No assurance can be given that any of the events anticipated by the forward-looking statements will occur, or if they do occur, what benefits the company will obtain from them. Also, some risks and uncertainties may be out of the control of the company. Lastly, RB Milestone is not a registered investment advisor or broker-dealer. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to Phoenix Global Mining CEO, Dennis Thomas. Dennis?
Thank you very much, Jack, and it's good to see, good to hear you actually, and thank you for the introduction. It's my pleasure to walk you through this, and I'm accompanied on this journey with by my colleague Richard Wilkins, our CFO, and he will comment on a few slides and be very happy to be in the discussions afterwards. If I may just start off by saying, Phoenix Global Mining, the overview, what we are. I'm assuming most of you that are here now will have seen our latest presentation. Flagship project that we have is the Empire Copper Mine in Idaho. We're also in cobalt. We're very much focused on Idaho, as you may have seen and you may know. And we have a near-term open pit mine, the Empire Mine, which we're in the process now of doing a bankable feasibility study, expecting to complete that in Q1 2020. 80% owned by Phoenix, and a potential major copper, zinc, gold, silver system. It is a very large system which is expanding as we do our work. At the moment, we've got 3.3 miles of strike length that has been identified very recently in a contiguous 5.2 square mile Empire claim block. We're also exploring the cobalt in the Idaho Cobalt Belt and have two extremely prospective claim blocks either side of the historic mine of cobalt. It's the most prospective cobalt belt in USA. It probably is the only cobalt belt at this stage. That's with Bora Resources, 100% owned by Phoenix. And for those of us who have been around the world and developing projects in all sorts of continents and places, Idaho represents the absolute ultimate in political geostability. And the Mining Journal recently, in their annual review of 2018, the perceived risk ranking for Idaho was equal top with Finland.
The management and directors you see here, this represents in our view, an experienced mix of technical, corporate, and financial expertise. Between us as a team, or the team has, between us, discovered, explored, developed, financed, built, and operated mines in various parts of the world, and as Dennis alluded to, including far less hospitable places than Idaho. I would just like to highlight Ryan McDermott, our COO. He is from Idaho. He's worked all over the world, but his family are actually from the town of Mackay, where the Empire Mine is, and Ryan has direct experience of the mining sector in Idaho, having already permitted mines in the state for earlier companies.
Yes, next slide, copper market overview, and it's interesting, many of you will have, listening to this, will have their own perceptions on the copper market as it is, but one thing is for certain, the demand for electric vehicles and the green lobby, particularly the demand for copper, is rising considerably. And in fact, Capital Economics in their report said that copper price demand will rise by over 60%, or the price particularly, they reckon to $10,000 per ton by 2025. It's interesting that the copper price has now rebounded somewhat from its low recently and is flirting with the $3 level once again. They comment, for example, on the green technology. Your average electric vehicle now uses between 3 and 4 times the amount of copper in it than the internal combustion engine. But I think that, and we firmly believe that the copper market is the only way to go is up at the moment, particularly in view of the fact that there is a big shortfall in copper projects at the moment, and the major companies particularly are scrabbling around looking for copper. And your average large copper deposit, a large porphyry, will take maybe up to 15 years to develop. So there's a big shortfall coming in the copper market. I do believe we're in the right place, particularly at Empire. Going on to the Empire mine. Location, as I said earlier on, in Idaho. We're in central Idaho, Northwest States, and we're in central Idaho in the little town of Mackay, population just over 500. Brownfield mine. The actual site itself is 4 miles to the west of Mackay, the town. You can actually be in the wagon wheel motel, get out of bed, get into your clothes, jump in the car, and within 15 minutes actually be on site. We recently increased our land footprint to, as we announced yesterday, in fact, 5,717 acres. The site has excellent access to power and water. We've got a high tension power line running through the property. We have our own water supply, and is accessible throughout the year despite being in the Rockies. Close proximity to a number of airports like Idaho Falls and Boise, Salt Lake City. And we're in Idaho, fastest growing state in the US, natural resource-based economy. And recently, streamlining of the permitting processes has sped. We have a parallel process and sped up the process of actually bringing a mine into a state that it can be developed through via the permitting. We have a parallel federal and state permitting process. And Governor Butch Otter recently set up a new Office of Energy and Mineral Resources, particularly to speed up the process in developing mineral resource projects. And as I said earlier on, lowest mining investment risk perception in Mining Journal's report. It's a very, very good place to be, indeed. Empire Mine itself, the mine in the area, copper gold discovered in 1988. The underground mining began in 1901 and went through to 1942, where the Second World War broke out and the workforce basically got conscripted. Underground production from adits, horizontal tunnels, and on the mountainside, underground basically to a depth of 1,100, 1,200 feet, from 11 tunnels which were vertically into the mountain. And the miners developing along high sulfide lodes, which were between 6 and 8% of copper. The reason for that was, in fact, that they could they used candles on their helmets, and they couldn't identify anything below 6%. So they produced 6% copper, ore that they could see, visible ore, and up to 6 grams per ton gold. But much of the copper was held in oxide form, and a lot of it went down the valley. And the average production grade over the life of mine was 3.64% copper, 1.65 gold, and just under 2 ounces, 53.9 grams per ton silver. But interestingly, the last shipment that went from the mine in 1942 was a tungsten shipment, and they were mining 4.3% WO3 and the car load was in fact 2.1% WO3. So in fact, indicating that tungsten is occurring a lot more at depth. Empire Mine history, I've gone through to 1942. When the mine closed, in fact, nothing much was done on it at all until 1964, when Cliffs Natural Resources came in, or Cleveland Cliffs as they used to be, to drill for iron on this skarn deposit, looking for magnetite. And it was then realized the technology changed, in fact, before the old men, when they did their mining, could not extract the copper oxides. Well, the copper oxide was then found to be soluble in acid, and in fact, at that stage, then the production of cathodes became easy from the oxide process. And so the history of the mine then, really, the sulfides were completely ignored, and the exploration work was done on the surface oxides. In 1997, Cambior, Canadian junior, in fact, did a complete report on the Empire Mine, did a program, and basically produced a global resource at that stage, which is largely the outline of the pit that we have today. Since that time, Canadian junior companies have really taken the lead in this and drilled a lot of holes. So if we fast forward to 2015, 2016, we inherited the benefit of something like 287 holes into the oxide deposit, which gave us a good base and all of the a good base for going forward, and the results of which we have in our core shed. We have all the core and all of the pulps are actually on site in the core shed from that historical time. Q3 2017, after a program of drilling, we drilled 25 holes into the ore body, a further 25 holes, and produced in November 2017 a resource. And April 2018, we produced a preliminary economic assessment of PEA. December 2018, we completed our 2018 drilling program, 93 holes further that went in, which means a total at this stage of more than 400 holes into this deposit. I often liken it to a pin cushion, I'm afraid. There's a lot of holes in that, and a lot of the risk from this project has been removed with the knowledge that we have at the moment. This is a view of our land holdings as released yesterday. We now have 5,017 acres. We basically trebled our land holding from that which we had before by the addition of the Windy Devil and the Navarre Creek. Windy Devil is an extension to the Empire ore body. We started off really with the Empire ore body in the oxide pit being approximately 1 kilometer long. With the extensions that we found in 2017 particularly, and the discovery of the Red Star deposit, joined the dots between the Empire Mine in the blue section there, which you'll see, which is our patented claim. And it's interesting to note that all of our ore body at the moment for the open pit is actually in our patented claims, which makes permitting a lot easier. But it extended into the horseshoe, and our work in 2018 showed that in fact that we now have an extension with this new addition of land into the Windy Devil claim, over 17,000 feet, which is approximately 17,000 feet, 3.3 miles, or well over 5 kilometers. So we've extended the strike length of this ore body considerably. Navarre Creek, different style of mineralization, Carlin style, gold particularly, and all basically sourced from the same mother porphyry. The Empire Mine itself, you'll see here, the green line in the oxide portion. This green line represents the border of the upper sulfides with the lower, the upper oxides with the lower sulfides. The ore, the metal when it comes from depth is a sulfide, and the natural weathering, the surface weathering, the air and groundwater oxidize the sulfides into oxide. So this top portion here is approximately 400 feet, and that is the extent of the open pit that we'll be mining. Underground, you'll see, is primary sulfides, and amazingly, when we took this project on, nothing had been done since the war in this area here, the old underground workings. The sulfides are completely virgin. There is a level right down below. This is the 1100 level, and in fact, if you go 500 feet deeper than this, in fact, an old mine level goes in, which intersected this particular structure, this skarn structure. And we're looking at this thing being at least up to 150 meters wide. So we're looking at this completely virgin. 2017, we drilled 2 holes down to 1400 feet down here, which confirm this structure exists. But our priority at the moment is in fact developing and mining this upper oxide ore body. Empire Mine on pace to become one of the new US copper mines, 80% owned, 23 patented claims, 286 unpatented claims. As I said, high grade. Our drilling programs of 2017, 2018 especially have been spectacularly successful, and we now have an absolute firm belief that this is now what we call a district style. It's a huge system. We have a 3.3 mile strike length, as I indicated earlier on, and this is, as far as we're concerned, extremely exciting. Exploration work has mainly shallow copper oxide, so we have an underground sulfide potential which has not been tapped at this stage. Our consulting geologist Nigel mourned when he first looked at this project and looked at the work that was being done. He commented that, in his opinion, 5 to 7% of the ore system has been tested, and he doesn't. In fact, his latest comments are that he doesn't even think 5% of our ore system has been tested yet. So there is exceptional opportunity in this particular project. Our preliminary, as we stand at the moment in the open pit, you will see that our preliminary economic assessment, we came up with a global figure of some 20,000, just under 20,000 tons of measured, indicated, and inferred. Our job, quite frankly, with the bankable feasibility study coming out, is to review. We're reviewing this at the moment. We're number crunching the results of the drilling program. The last results coming in on Monday, and we're looking at putting obviously as much of the measured and indicated through our infill drilling program in the gaps that exist within the ore body into the measured and indicated, and moving a lot of that inferred into the measured and indicated, and also increasing the grade. So we're looking to substantially, significantly improve these figures that we have at the moment. I think, interestingly, if you look at the valuations, at present metal prices as we stand at the moment, there's almost $1 billion worth of in-ground metal, and that's as of November 2017. So we're going to significantly look at altering these resources figures. New resource we expect to have out sometime in April, all being well. and as I said, I'm looking to very interested to see how the dynamics of the ore resources changes. We've been very pleased with the drilling program. It's been very positive. Sulfide potential, as I hinted, immense, quite frankly. Potential bulk tonnage in the sulfides, copper, gold, silver, tungsten, and now with the horseshoe blocks, Windy Devil as well, we've been getting high grade to the north here, high grade lead and zinc, but particularly high grade lead in excess of 20%, and silver grades in excess of a kilogram per ton. Very exciting, and basically resources stated at this stage to be 5 to less than 5%, I rather suspect, when we really get the system. So the major value we believe in this ore body is actually underlying the open pit. The open pit really is a starter to unlock the potential of the sulfides, which are considerable and along a very large strike length. Cobalt, that's a piece of cobalt from the Bighorn lease, the cobaltite. Prospective copper cobalt properties, Bighorn property, 580 acres, Redcastle 600 acres, 100% owned by Phoenix with Bora Resources. Either side of the central town of Cobalt there, Bighorn to the north on the Salmon River, Redcastle as well, which adjoins the Iron Creek lease of first cobalt. Typical grade 0.4 to 0.6% cobalt. Redcastle particularly I think is very exciting. As you'll see here, the Bighorn license is north of the Salmon River, really surrounded by New World Cobalt, an Australian company. But this is the particularly exciting one, which is First Cobalt's Iron Creek mine. First Cobalt was bought out US Cobalt for nearly $150 million last year. We're immediately abutting this. We can hear the drill rigs working here. The First Cobalt mine is coming in here. This is exceptionally good geology, and we're, as I say, surrounded. We've got Iron Creek. We have again New World Cobalt here. Very much the focus this area for cobalt development at the moment. Sample results, we're awaiting now these particular results early on in the campaign. We have new cobalt results, which we're awaiting results imminently. We're just getting our head around the sampling that we have done. 2018 program was slightly curtailed due to forest fires, but we will look to get a drill rig in on particularly Redcastle, I believe, as soon as we possibly can. Company milestones, as you'll see, finished the drilling program, resource update. That is what we're doing at the moment. All being well, in April, we will have that resource out, which I'm looking forward to very much. We're in the process of going through at the moment our process design BFS and agitation leach, the metallurgical test work particularly, and that, in fact, we're looking at an agitation leach alternative to the original PEA concept of a heap leach. We're working on that, and we will complete the BFS at the end, round about the end of Q1 2019. Ongoing environmental studies, which have been going very successfully. Permitting process, which we're in the process of getting sharpening up. We hope to have our plan of operations this year in Q3 submitted, and then into project financing, and we're already talking to people about that, and construction sometime around about the middle of next year, always assuming a successful permitting process. Commissioning startup 2021, and we'll have an ongoing program obviously in the the sulfides as well. That certainly is our objective, and then continuous exploration of the cobalt operations. So major investment highlights, major mineralized system. Of that we're absolutely certain. We've got a clear road to copper cathode production, so that we're ready to get into the copper production. We can see that coming, and precious metals with the agitation leach. Great location, brilliant location in Idaho. Great management team, not only at board level, but we've got a superb management team and team of geologists run by Ryan in Mackie, and diversity. We've got copper, gold, silver, zinc, and possibly tungsten in the long term at Empire. But we've got copper, cobalt, and possibly some gold as well in the Idaho Cobalt Belt. So it's an exciting program. I'll take a glass of water and hand over to Richard. Would you like to go through the next slide, please?
Sure. Well, we've got just under 39 million shares in issue at the moment. Fully diluted for warrants and options, it's about 45 million shares. With our current share price, that gives us a market cap of some £7.3 million, or approximately $10 million US, which we obviously think is seriously low, given the undoubted value that we've added to the property over the last couple of years as we've worked on it. And you will have noted that the contained metal in just the open pit resource, and that's the resource that exists at the moment, which we're about to upgrade significantly. That contained metal has a market value of some $1 billion. So I think there's plenty of scope here for appreciation in the market cap. We've got a good shareholder base, a loyal shareholder base. Management owns about 11%. XGen Resources, who we acquired the Empire property from, and who have a 20% carried interest in Empire until construction financing, at which time they will either participate or dilute. And the rest of the shareholder base is mainly high net worth individuals, private clients, some very good names indeed that would be well recognized over here in the UK as being astute mining investors. Our institutional representation is currently fairly small, but we do have a couple here in the UK and a couple now in the US, and we're looking to grow that as quickly as we reasonably can, and we're working with advisors in the US to hopefully get US representation on our register increased significantly, given that the project is obviously in Idaho in the United States.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Richard. First question from Jeff Mazzeri. Jeff, you're now free to speak.
Thanks a lot. I'd just like to emphasize in your last press release, I believe you were talking about some rather impressive grades. So could you go over the grades again of what the grades are with the copper and with the silver and lead and the zinc?
Yes, Jeff. If I can, I've not lose that particular. Oh, there we are. Yes, we have. There's the step out. Some of the step out grades that we're getting were quite high. We had somewhere in the region of 7.14% copper, 5.94 grams per ton gold, and 76 grams per ton silver in places. We have, if we put that into copper equivalent, which we, for an agitation leach purposes, in terms of treatment, you're looking at in excess of 11% copper equivalent. And some of these grades, we have short intersections of in excess of 12.8% copper in places. Now, don't forget this will be in a bulk ore body situation. So these values may be concentrated in short lengths, but as a bulk ore body, it does a great deal to upgrade the resource grade.
Okay, thank you. Will you be? Yeah.
I was going to say, sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead.
The other thing I would say is that the in Red Star where we drilled, which is off to the northern part of the ore body, and if I can just put the red, that is the northern extent of the pit, the drilling that we've done. The Red Star discovery here, this was discovered late this year, and we put a number of holes in here. This represents the border, approximately where there's a fault, and the down-thrown northern side, we're in the lead-zinc portion of the ore body, which is the higher portion of the ore body. The copper sits underneath. And we were getting assays there, which were 20% lead, which is the upper detection limit of lead, 20% lead, and in excess of a kilogram, 1.1 kilograms per ton of silver. So we've been filling in the results that we've been getting. Instead of these discrete pits here, we've been getting increases in, if you like, in expansion in the ore body in these areas here, out to the west, out to the east, and in fact, indeed, to the south here. And in fact, as I said, there's a little mine down here called the Phoenix Mine historically. So somebody's trying to tell us something. But the Red Star deposit here, in fact, was the, if you like, the key, the missing link that joined this with the northern. This is the northern piece. Red Star was here, and if I can, just to give you an idea, all being well, there we are. Off here, and it was the missing link between the Horseshoe Mine, which is here, and the Empire Mine, which is here. And this is a continuous mineralization here. And in this particular area here, the Windy Devil, there's in excess of 30 shafts and adits. So we've got a big ore body here, very big ore body.
Thank you. Just one more follow-up question. Are you going to be producing copper, or are you going to be producing concentrate?
We will be, in this case, producing copper cathodes and gold and silver doré. So in the oxide portion, we would produce copper cathode, and in the sulfides, for example, copper, you'd be producing a copper concentrate to send to a smelter. So the sulfides is a different exercise altogether metallurgically than the oxides.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dennis. The next question is from a private investor. Do you think Redcastle could be sold for $100+ million if PGM decides to? And how much additional drilling is needed to prove its worth? That is, how long until it's worth $100+ million?
Right. Well, at this stage, it is an exploration prospect. We've done reconnaissance. We're doing targeting for drilling. At this point, there hasn't been a drill hole put in, and it would be our intention to start drilling Redcastle if we can later on this 2019 season. I would suggest at that stage we would look to put value on, as it is at the moment. It's an exploration prospect, highly prospective, obviously because of its address right next door to Iron Creek. Putting 100 million, I think it probably would need 2 or 3 years drilling program to put a value on it, and what that value would be, quite frankly, I don't know. It would depend on the grades that we find, which is probably ducking the question, Chris. I do apologize, but it's interesting that SP Angel, in their evaluation last year, in their note, they put a value, actually, of the equivalent of £1.50 a share on the value of our cobalt claims. we at this stage, I don't think many people give us much credit at all for the cobalt, but the cobalt claims are very strategic. And of course, the Department of the Interior in the US declared cobalt as a strategic mineral very recently, and it's there isn't really too many places in the United States that you can go to find cobalt. Simple as that.
Thanks, Dennis. The next question is from the caller with last four digits, 5633. You're now free to speak.
Well, good morning, gents. And just like Jeff Missouri emphasized something, I'd like to emphasize that was a lovely Welsh rugby win last week over the English. Bloody well done, Richard.
Thank you, Russell.
Couple questions. It was mentioned earlier by Dennis about expectations on grade improvements. And so, if you're looking at M&I, 0.5 or so, what are your expectations of grade improvement? I mean, I haven't seen any super high grade one plus type intercepts anywhere. So I'm just wondering, you have confidence in that. What are your expectations?
I'm asked that question a lot, and I try and duck it as best I can at this point. The fellows are crunching the numbers at the moment. I think all that I could probably say, it's interesting that at this point, I think what we've seen, particularly with our infill drilling, is that the grades certainly have been maintained, if not improved. And we've got step out drilling, which also has some pretty good grades, which are going to be included in the resource. It's a bit like saying how long is a piece of string. I am confidently expecting that there will be a significant increase, and that's a politician's answer at this stage. I wouldn't like to commit anything at this point, but I'm looking forward to it. And how could I say it? Just read my lips in that regard. I'm optimistic that we'll get a significant upgrade in the grade, particularly. And don't forget as well, in terms of what we did before the exercise we went through with the PEA, we're also now including the gold and the silver, and there've been some pretty effective silver and gold intercepts in the drilling that we've been doing.
So maybe a question should be, approximately when do you expect an announcement on the grade improvements?
It'll be April at this stage. April. That's what we're targeting at the moment.
2019. Okay.
2019. Yes, we are actually. We have a chap on site from RPM at the moment, buried in snow in Mackay, going through with our geologists the models and putting the numbers actually into the block models. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And with regard, I'm an Englishman, and I must admit, you deserved your victory on Saturday.
Oh, well, it was delightful. Let's put it that way.
It was. It was a good match, and the best side won.
Yes. My follow. Can I do some follow-on questions, or I got to get back in the queue again?
I'm happy to. Yes, far away.
Okay. So in terms of your various levels, I mean, some of those development rock will be mineralized. I mean, is there a chance of taking some of that development rock that's mineralized and create some earlier cash flows, acknowledging that there's a differential between the oxides and the sulfides, but certainly the oxides have a market. We're looking at, call it 2 years from this quarter, or 2 years from Q2 this year, for potential cash flow. I mean, has there been any discussions at board level in terms of earlier cash flows?
No, I think what we've got to go through is going through the oxide. Going through the oxide route is the fastest way into production, without doubt. We've already, quite frankly, we've looked at going into the mountain, the 700 level. We reopened. We got underground. I've actually been underground and seen that. In fact, they've basically, when they finished the mine, they what we call pulled the pillars which means basically, quite frankly, wrecking some of the tunnels. It's dangerous. The costs of getting in expensive. We had a go at the 1100 level, which we thought might be good, but again, the ground conditions are such that we would need to do a separate raising and raise, $1 million+ just to get one tunnel in, and then there was no guarantee that the tunnels inside would be open. The 1600 level, which is the very bottom level, probably represents a very good opportunity to get into the sulfides. So, if you like, but early production, no, we're on a fast track at the moment. That's about as fast as we can make it.
So the 300 level and the 200 levels don't present any type of oxidized ore that you can put through a DMS or some type of basic.
No, I think the only way to, quite frankly, this is of course the problem that if you like, I'll call them the old men, the people who operated the mine originally in the first part of last century. They in fact could not treat it. They went through this ore. The only way to do this is in fact, quite frankly, by basically acid leach and then solvent extraction. So for example, a DMS flotation, it doesn't work with the particularly the nature of the oxides that we have.
Okay. Well, an SX costs roughly $80 million or so. In the gold, silver, doré, you'd have to put some type of separate stream on that. I mean, I've not seen
yes.
an SX. Have you guys?
Yeah, you would.
You guys have a basic plan, or a design plan, flotation plan, or that you have in mind to liberate that silver gold doré? Because it really is a silver gold doré.
Yeah, no, we'd put it through basically with the original plan. It was a crush, drill blast crush, put it on a heap, leach the copper out, and we get something like 76% recovery life of mine, and then have to go back and recover the precious metals with a CIP plant, or do a cyanide leach. But in this case, you would be in fact crushing, grinding, putting it through a tank, basically an agitation tank leach, and then reconditioning and putting it through a precious metal plant to produce the doré.
Now, but that heap is an exothermic reaction, and you've got ambient temperatures that are, in the minus. How, that's going to affect your recoveries. So how confident are you at that 76? I think you said 76% recovery in such a variation, atmospheric variation.
The tests that have been done so far, as I said, the heat leach option probably will wither on the vine, dare I say it, and obviously the tank leach, because we're talking with an agitation leach of getting recovery in excess of 90%, and of course it's in a controlled environment then, so you would not be sticking it out in the weather, as it were, which is what you're effectively saying. I must admit my expertise isn't in metallurgy, and certainly the work that's been done on it, that there was a confidence. The work that was done did suggest that we get a 76% recovery life of mine.
Sorry to interrupt, but we'll take 2 more questions. The first question, Dennis, will be, what is the estimated cost of bringing the surface billion-dollar copper deposit to production? And how are you thinking about funding this part of the project, equity versus debt?
Richard, would you like to take that?
Yes, the estimated cost will be in the region of $130 million, something like that. We've already had preliminary discussions with some of the mine finance houses. We would be looking to finance it with as much debt-related product as possible and minimal equity. Mine finance, streaming deals potentially on the gold and the silver now that they're going to be in the production plan, metal offtake for the copper, equipment finance, leasing, all those options are on the table. I can say that the discussions we've had so far have been positive, and we're confident that we can raise the construction money to build this mine, and that the vast majority of it, at least, would be debt related and not equity.
Thanks, Richard. We'll take one final question. The final question was from a private investor. Will the recent fundraising be enough to cover through to the BFS, or will further placings be required?
Well, I'll answer that one as well, and it actually ties back really into the previous question. Of the discussions that we have had in New York in particular, but also here in London, it's become apparent that given the relative lack of risk on this project, in that the open pit, it's clearly there. It's had over 400 holes drilled into it. There's an historic mine underneath it, which we know exists, and it's in central Idaho, and it's a brownfield site with very little permitting problems that we see. The general feeling is that once we have the new resource, which will be quite a significant milestone for us, and as Dennis said, we're expecting that in April, we believe that we can actually try to get some debt finance on the back of that resource as a front end to the construction finance. So we will be looking to put a financing package together after we've got the resource out, debt related as far as possible, to take us right the way through then to completion of construction finance. But we're not planning to do any more large equity rounds. We are going to very firmly from now on focus on what we can do debt related, using the new resource as if you like the catalyst to support that.
Thanks, Richard. And thanks, Dennis. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's webinar. If you have any additional questions that have not been addressed on this webinar, please feel free to email Dennis directly at dennis.thomas@pgmining.com.